Hi guys! Welcome to another episode of the Work Knits podcast. My name's Lauren, I'm coming to you from the southwest of England, and today I'm recording from yet another location. So you're getting the full tour of different places in my life. It's a beautiful blue sky, crisp autumn day here in England. It's stunning. And today I've got so much content to talk to you all about. I've been really excited to sit down and record this. I have got a cup of coffee with me. I hope you've got something nice to drink, snack on, or maybe you're busy doing something and I'm just playing in your ears. Whatever your setup, I hope you're ready for a really good knitty chat. So I'm going to follow pretty much normal kind of schedule or format for this podcast, but I do have a couple of bonus sections and some updates about the next kind of month to 2 months on kind of what you can expect on the channel, so do stick around for that. We will also be finally drawing 1,000 subscriber giveaway winners, which I can't quite believe, and I've been running this giveaway for so long and I've been so grateful to so many of you for being so patient with me. As we've kind of worked our way up to 1,000, people have been participating. Absolutely loved it and just so grateful for each and every one of you, so thank you. I'll be talking more about the winners for that later on in this episode, so stay tuned. But for now, I'm going to cross my legs and get comfy, and let's talk about finished objects. So I have a couple. One was one that I had got planned, another is a kind of bonus. So let's start with the planned finished object. And when I say finished, some of you will say I'm cheating because there are a couple of ends that are not woven in, but forgive. So I have been working on this top for what feels like ages, but in reality it really isn't. It's probably been about a month or so. This top was something I had in my mind for so long, and I'm so excited to wear it. So what have we got going on here? We have got, and I'm going to scoot forwards again, we've got a kind of basic raglan style top. I used the original cast on numbers and split for raglans based on the Petite knit no frills sweater in the smallest size, just literally to decide where my raglan markers were going. Then the number of increases I did was all just freestyled, kind of holding it up, measuring it. So yeah, it's knit on, I believe, 4mm needles. I think I cast on in Rauwerk Sport. I've got the label here. I used just under 2 skeins, 100g skeins, and you get, looking for number of meters per skein. 100g equals 300 meters, so it's a really light and airy, but it's got that plumpness to make it sport. So I've used under 600 meters for this top. It was a little bit yarn chickeny, I must admit. And I did my usual kind of slightly compound raglan construction. And when I say compound, I don't mean necessarily in the sense you can get a compound raglan where you have different increase rates of raglan increases. When I say compound, what I actually mean is it's using 2 different styles of construction for the top half of the top. So you've got your raglan increases, and then I like to knit straight for a bit, body and the front and back of body separate, and then rejoin under the arms. And I just find that gives me the length before the sleeve split without giving me maybe too much ease under my arms, for example. So I did that. I then knit the body. I've got 2 stitch decrease, well, a stitch decrease either side of the centre side on both, just using a simple knit 2 together slip knit. And then I've done folded hems on all. Now I would shout this has not been blocked, which is why these hems are kind of falling a bit funny, but I will block it, and it's one of the reasons I'm not wearing it, because this is a 0 ease top, which was always my intention. I wanted something very slim fitting. It was modelled off another top I had in my wardrobe, just like a kind of like jersey top from Zara, and I just wanted it to be 0 ease. But without blocking, it means it just, at the moment, just the stitches don't quite look perfect when I wear it. So that will, I absolutely know that will all work once I've blocked it, but yeah. So it's got a very, I don't know if you can see when I'm holding it up, but hugely tapered down to the waist, which I really like. Is a little bit of a wriggle to get it over the bust, but that's fine. It's worth it for then when it fits around the waist. And the kind of star of the show really is these shoulder pads, or like shoulder patches. Now, executing these was horrendous. I did not think it would be this difficult, but I used the Allison Ellen Design Knit for Texture and Colour book, and in there the designer has got so many incredible kind of techniques for creating 3D structures out of knitting. It's just amazing. And I used one of those to create these kind of diamond shapes out of 2 colours. And then you can join them as you go, but historically I've not found the join as you go technique to create the most kind of crisp look. So I knit them all separately, then sewed them together into a kind of bigger diamond, and then I have then sewn them onto the sleeve inside the raglan borders. Now that sewing on piece was so hard because the structure of these diamonds is incredibly stretchy. It's very easy to kind of skew them out of line, and I think that's kind of what I've accidentally done on this one, but I don't think you can tell too much. But the keen-eyed amongst you will see the top there is a little bit off centre, and also the keen-eyed amongst you will notice I've done one shoulder with the mainly orange diamonds going vertically, and then the other shoulder the orange goes horizontally, so I've switched them over. But I had this idea for these shoulder pads in my mind for so long, and I absolutely love them, and I cannot recommend more. If you've got like, you know, you could do this with granny squares. You could make like several granny squares and put them corner to corner down a sleeve. That would look absolutely awesome. You could knit, you could make flowers, you could make whatever you like. This idea of appliquing knits onto knits, yes, the sewing on is a little bit challenging, but the result is just so lovely. Like the squish factor on these shoulders is incredible, and like the drama and the way it draws attention to the curve of your shoulder, just stunning. I know it's my work, but as in the principle, I think is just lovely. So would really recommend you to kind of experiment a little bit with that if you are interested. So this is finally a finished object, lots of sewing involved, but very, very pleased with the result. And I should have said I also put a couple of short rows in the back just to raise the neckline. This neckline looks a little bit funny when it's sitting. Actually, I'm showing it to you the wrong way, that way. There we go. Little some short rows to raise the back neckline. The folded hem or folded collar is sitting a bit funny when it's just like this, but when it's on the body, that actually creates this space around your neck. And I'll come on to this more later, but that space around the neck is becoming a detail that I'm really beginning to pay attention to. So I'm going to grab a sip of coffee, and then I will pick up on that neckline point later on in the episode, and I will move on to my next finished object. I will tackle what I'm wearing, but maybe just a little bit further into the episode. So good. Sorry, slapping my coffee a bit there. So that finished object was definitely one that I really wanted to finish this week. It was on my list. Actually, I'm going to move that down there so I've got a bit more room. The next finished object I cast on early this week just been. So so as many of you will know, I published a collar pattern or design. I will try and insert a picture here. Earlier this autumn, and that collar is constructed top down, and I think there's a lot of benefits to that. But what I was observing is that there are other benefits to working collars bottom up, and I really wanted to experiment with that. I had actually submitted a design to a yarn producer. It kind of, you submit them, you don't know if they're going to take them, and in this instance they sadly didn't accept my design, but in the preparation for that I really wanted to experiment with a bottom up collar construction. Now I know that loads of people are now producing collars. They are like the big thing this year. They're even showing in the high street clothing stores. But anyway, so I don't want people to be overwhelmed with collar designs, but the one I'd had in my mind that, as I say, was unfortunately unsuccessful for the publication I submitted it to, I think I will probably look to publish independently anyway. And so for that I really wanted to experiment with a different construction, and here we go. So this is so vanilla basic collar, as vanilla as you can get. It's got some really lovely details, so all of this ribbing at the bottom is twisted rib. It's half twisted rib, so you are just, no, that's a lie, it's twisted. It doesn't show as twisted rib on the reverse side, but you are twisting stitches on both sides when you're knitting flat, if that makes any sense. It's also got my signature single row of stockinette after the cast on, which I always think gives a really lovely edge. And then the twisted rib continues up the sides. Those borders are maintained the whole way through and then at the back. And the neckline is constructed as you go, so you're knitting the whole thing in one piece and then you go back in and pick up the collar. The collar is, I think, a really lovely shape. It's a really kind of natural, slightly flatter at the back because, you know, across your shoulders is, and then it dips around the front. It's folded, but it's folded in such a way that you can see the shaping from the collar underneath, and I really like that detail. And I've just tacked it down to hold that in place. So this is my second finished object. This is knit on 4.5mm needles in Kate Davies Designs Ard Thir. Sorry, got something on my face. Ard Thir, and I the last because I've used another colourway in the same yarn before, and that was Glameg, and this is, I will have to put this either on screen or down in the show notes in the description box below. This is another colourway name that is Scottish and I'm really struggling to pronounce it, so I will put it on screen or below. But there we go, really happy with this. You've got a slightly longer front than the back, but I think this will look really, really good inside my coat or even over a sweater when I just need that extra bit of warmth. So yes, that's an unexpected finished object. And what's lovely is this was all from stash. So as was the other finished object, the Rauwerk Sport I had was gifted to me as a Christmas present a few years ago, and the shoulder pads, I should have said, are knit on 2.25mm needles using scraps left over from my Time to Decompress socks, which is a design I have up on Ravelry, and the yarn is Coop Knits Socks Yeah in the colourway Chryso, which is the blue, and Almadine, which is the burnt orange. So that was a completely scrappy stash project. It was great. So that is my two finished objects for this week. Apologies if I'm talking quite fast. Please feel free to alter the speed of my talking using the settings below. But I've got a lot to get through this week and I don't want to keep you guys for too long. That being said, I definitely need another sip of coffee. Okay. Which section to do next? Okay, yeah, I'm going to go on to works in progress. We do have a bonus section that I'm going to throw in. Apologies if I'm repeating myself from the start of the video, but I'm going to throw in a section on some knits that I have, that I've made previously, that I'm now either going to alter or frog. I did a bit of this maybe a month or two ago, on a to frog pile, but this is slightly different. So anyway, I'll throw that in, but I'll do that after works in progress. So off the back of the last episode, you probably remember I was knitting the Nord sweater, which is a pattern published by Sandnes Garn, and let me turn this the right way round. Again, for those of you who've been following along for a while, you know I knit my things inside out, long story. We can touch on that again at some point if people are interested. So I'm just showing you where we are up to. Sorry, disorganised podcaster, not having everything ready to easily show, but we aren't midway through a row, so that's good. Right, here we go. Okay, Nord sweater. So I think when I showed it on the episode last time, I was working down the split body, I think. because I did, no, I'm lying to you. Okay, pattern by Sandnes Garn. It is a round circular yoke, but you then do raglan construction. I think before I just got to the sleeve separation. I have done something I think it's really cool with my raglans. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see. So what I have done is I have done both my increases for my raglan into the same stitch using a knit front back. Nope, using a make one right, make one left, but into exactly the same bar between two stitches. And it creates, I think, just this absolutely beautiful kind of, I think there's a cable design called like an oxtail and it does the same thing. It's just beautiful. So anyway, I love that. We'll definitely be doing that again. I have since last episode knit the majority of one sleeve. This is looking slightly in odd shape and I'm a little bit, I'm not a massive fan of sleeve constructions and shaping where you knit it straight for a portion and then you start tapering, because I always think it looks really bizarre when you haven't got it on your body. I haven't managed to try this on yet, so I'm just hoping that's going to look okay. I am then, I'm just freestyling this, but I'm basically decreasing every 5 stitches either side of a centre stitch. And then on the body I'm doing something similar. So on the body I am decreasing a stitch either side of a centre 2 stitches down each side. That's approximately every 5 rows as well, or 5 rounds as well. I'm knitting this on 3.5mm needles, I believe, and I did not change my needle size from the colour work. That may come back to haunt me, let's just see. But I was assessing it as I went, and I think because of the way that the last bit is worked, I think I might be okay. The other reason I might be okay is that I've done the colour work in a few different scrappy yarns held over from other projects. So the red at the very top up here is beetroot in the sock minis from Lichen and Lace. The white is a Surrey alpaca held singles, so obviously thinner than the main jumper weight. That's Retrosaria Rosa Pomar at Presenter. So it's kind of one of their, and I explained this very badly in the last episode, but basically they've taken some unbranded skeins and they're selling them under their brand, but noting that they're not made by them. Then the kind of browny colour you can see here and here is a Knitting for Olive Kid Silk Mohair. I think that's in like a kind of dark ochre gingerbready kind of colour. And then the blue is Cumulus by Fibre Spates, which is another Surrey, and that is in the colourway Sea Green. And I think that's it until you get to the main colour. The main colour is Filcolana Pernilla in the colour Light Grey. And full disclosure, I basically need to order some more of that. I had 4 50-gram balls of it, so 200 grams total. But my vision for this is I really want to knit quite long sleeves, quite like tapered long sleeves, with then a really deep cuff, which I'll probably knit on 3mm needles in 1x1 rib. And then I want to do quite a big rolled neck, turtleneck, again in 3mm 1x1 rib. And then the front, I want to make the body probably like double the length it is currently. Just trying to show you. Probably like out to like here. And then I want to do a split hem, again in 3mm needles, 1x1 rib, and make that quite deep too. So there's quite a lot more to knit on this. I've used 2 balls so far on the yoke and body, and I'm on a ball that I'm using to knit the sleeve. I've got a decent amount of that left. And then I've got 1 other ball left, and I just don't think that's obviously going to do it all. So I would have probably had this finished. That's how much I love knitting on it. But I just don't have enough yarn, so I need to put that order in. And what else can I say about this? Filcolana Pernilla has to be one of my like desert island yarns. I love the way it feels to knit with it. It's so slick, but it still feels rustic. It's got this roundness, it's got this stitch definition that's beautiful. The colours have got really good depth to them, and it's really affordable. I just think it ticks so many boxes, and it's going to make a really warm sweater that's got kind of substance, but it's going to be light and it's going to be drapey, and I just think that's a really unique combination of attributes for a yarn to be able to produce in a fabric. So really happy. So that is that work in progress. I don't think I've missed any details, but as with the others, there will be further information down below if you want to check back in on any of those details. So that was something that I thought might be a finished object. I thought we might be looking at 3 finished objects today, but not quite. More coffee, and then I can tell you a little bit more. So what else? So the other thing that I thought might be a finished object today, and I was getting so excited because for some of you, you will have seen this item so many times, but I have picked this up again. This is being nicknamed my Tresco Doodle sweater. It is, sorry, I'm shimmying forwards and backwards on this couch. This is Tresco Doodle sweater. This is a sweater where I have followed no pattern. I have done no maths. I just cast it on and just doodled. Like, I literally made up this colourwork motif as I went and just went, and the numbers didn't even work out perfectly. So on the back, you can kind of see there's a bit of a bigger gap here in between my chevrons because I just made it up. So it was never going to work perfectly. And then I've just tried it on as I go. Now, I would put it on today, but I think it's going to be just a tad too hot. We've got the heating on here. So I think I'm going to overheat a bit, but this fits like my dream thick jumper for the winter, like layering piece. This was the first project, or kind of probably my second project, but my first one that I really started to think about this kind of combination of round yoke, raglan, and this knitting flat down the sides. So I don't know if you can see here, but there's this flat section I've knit here, and then I picked up the sleeve into that. The bit of work that I've done on this week is, for those who remember, I'd knit the one cuff and I'd knit one side of a split hem. Sorry, you've got the waist yarn showing there as well. One side of a split hem. I have basically knit the other cuff, which I think is great. The cuffs, I think I'll wait to go into full specs of this jumper until the next episode when I'm really hoping this is done. But suffice it to say, basically the reason that the other front panel isn't done, which would be in theory very quick, is, as those of you who've watched along for a while will know, this project is so hard on my hands, and it does something particularly painful, which is on my little finger as I'm holding the fabric. It pulls the side of my finger away from my nail. It's horrible. So I've loved knitting this, but it's a tad painful. And yeah, I just can't do it in big bouts. So doing the cuff this week kind of almost broke my hands. It's very, very dense fabric on 3.5mm needles. So let's see if I can get that hem done in the next 2 weeks, because I'd really love to have this to wear ready for December. So that's my Tresco Doodle sweater. I'll do yarn details and everything in the next episode when it's done, because I don't want you guys getting bored. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through all this coffee without it going cold today. Let's just see. I feel like I'm rattling through these, but there's quite a lot to go through. So I'll leave that for a moment. A couple that I guess I can just kind of flag rather than going into in massive detail, but again, I'm hoping this one's going to be a finished object pretty soon. This is my Grink wrap. I've put maybe another foot on this. I think when I last spoke to you, I'd just done this darker pink section, so I've put in this much work. I will, if I can remember, to link to the video where I describe this in more detail, but I just am very conscious that for returning viewers, you're probably bored of me talking about some of these whips, and I really was trying to do like a whip down. I wanted like 3 or 4 of them to be done so I could be showing you new projects, and then when that didn't really become feasible and I just knew it wasn't going to happen, I just cast on some new whips, just to, giving us all a bit of variety. But anyway, I think realistically this probably isn't going to be done until like just before Christmas, but it will be done in 2023. This is at a high level my first Intarsia project. It is knit holding a strand of Knoll Yarns superfine lambswool in the colourway Almond the whole way through, minus this grey section, and then I'm just changing the mohair I hold with it. You've got Gullroch Fibres is this beautiful rose pink in the middle, leftovers of Isager Ecru, and then this is a ball of Schulana Kids Silk Mohair in the colourway 210, and I'm just holding a different mohair with the Almond, and then I'm just doing kind of doodled geometric blocks. I'm just playing with it. I really quite enjoy this. The only thing is it is knit flat back and forth. You've got the time taken to twist the yarns. This Gullroch Fibres Mohair, I mean, that's how much I've got left from I think it was a 50-gram skein, which is just, there's just so much mohair, which is such good value for money, I must say, and it goes so far. But I kind of want to use all the mohair up, as in like all the different colours, all my little scrappy bits. I want to use all of it. So this will hopefully end up a really, really long wrap. And then I'm going to do a border, it'll be bigger than this, I need to extend this, of 2 strands of Knoll Yarns superfine lambswool in the colourway Oxford held together. So 2 strands of that held together. Going to do a big border around the whole thing and then do an I-cord edge to bind off. So yeah, and so not only have you got the kind of twisting of the yarns, you've got the knitting flap, but also this is on 3.25mm needles, so really quite fine, and hence it doesn't feel like it's going particularly quickly, but I think if I was a bit more monogamous with it, it obviously might do. So that's another whip on the cards this week. So 2 whips down. I think I have another 2 to show you, I think. This one I can talk to very, very briefly. Give me one moment. This one I can talk to very briefly, but basically this is a flea stitch double, like a tube cowl where I'm going to sew the ends together. I've only done this much, and that was because I thought I could get away with using 1 ball of Knitting for Olive Merino as the main colour and then just swap in 2 different contrast colours. And I divided the ball of Knitting for Olive Merino into 2 so that I knew when I was halfway. I basically cast on, because I'm just freewheeling this, I basically cast on too many stitches to make that work. I quite like the width it's ended up. That's going to be a really nice deep snuggly cowl, but I basically cast on too many stitches, so I've had to wait to make any more progress until I've bought more of the Knitting for Olive. I am trying not to buy very much yarn at the moment, but this is actually going to be a gift knit, so I need to get it done. So you'll see a lot more progress on this over the next 2 weeks because I really want to get that into good shape ahead of the wedding. More on that later. So very little progress to show on that one. And then I do have a really exciting cast on that I wanted to show you. So this kind of slightly bleeds into acquisitions later, so I'm going to show you the pattern that I'm using. So we popped back to our home in the southwest of England. My partner and I have a house there. We've been living elsewhere with family due to work, and we were hoping to kind of sell the property and move. That has all not quite gone to plan, but we took the opportunity to go back and just have a weekend to ourselves back there, and we popped into town for a little bit of a walk and a mooch and a little bit of something to eat, and popped into our local Waterstones. And for those who don't live in the UK, Waterstones is a big bookstore, like a big chain of bookstores in the UK that really cater for kind of everybody. Like, they have such a wide variety of books, but the one in our local town tends to stock knitting books, which is amazing. I have not yet purchased a Lane published book. Lane, I don't know how people pronounce it. So this is my very first purchase from them, which was the 52 weeks of scarves. And my next whip is a scarf from this book. I have a bit of a rule around purchasing knitting books rather than individual patterns. I need to want to knit at least 25% of the patterns within it to make it a viable purchase. That's kind of my rule of thumb. So yeah, this book definitely hit that, and there's loads of patterns in here that I will probably go through at a later date, but you'll be seeing a lot of whips coming from this set of designs, this 52 weeks of scarves. I just think they're stunning, and there's lots I'd like to make for family, friends and myself. Now, how best to show you without flashing instructions, but I am making this gorgeousness. So I have been looking at this book and this pattern in particular for probably the best part of a year, and I've really wanted to make it, and as I say, I just bit the bullet. So I have cast this on. The pattern calls for 3.25mm. I couldn't bear doing another 3.25mm wrap, so I've cast on 3.75. I also tend to be a very tight knitter, so this probably gets me closer to their gauge. This is what I have knit so far, and it's really hard to show, but you've got some decreases being worked and some increases being worked. So it's a really interesting construction. I obviously don't look like I've done masses, but I've cast this on in the last couple of days. And one thing I would say is that this is a very new experience to me, in the sense, not only is this a very, I think quite an unusual construction method, but also the way that instructions are written for patterns when they're published in kind of bigger books. You know, there's a big editing process to make sure that pattern only takes up so many pages in the book, whereas obviously when someone publishes something independently, you can take up as many pages as you like in theory. And what that means is, I have heard this from several people, the instructions become maybe slightly harder to follow. So far okay. I'm actually omitting that the original design has this gorgeous, I don't want to give too much away, but it basically makes it look like columns of ribbing. And I have omitted that, and I've just done straight garter stitch because it was too much for my brain. I couldn't follow the instructions with that pattern coming, whereas when I was just doing it in garter stitch, I could see more what I was doing. So I'm not ruling out knitting this again once I'm used to the construction with the kind of texture. But at the moment it's just garter stitch. This main colour is Holst Garn Almond in their 2-ply jumper weight, or they call it super soft. I absolutely love Holst. This is leftover stash from a jumper I made for my dad a few years ago. It's this gorgeous colour. So this is my main colour, and then I'm using 2 colours from Knitting for Olive Merino. These were gifted to me as a Christmas present again. My family are so lovely and, you know, endorse my my knitting love. So this beautiful colour, and it's not quite showing up bright on camera, it's kind of like cinnamon, and it's called Autumn. How perfect. And I'm contrasting that with a colour that I would not normally pick out myself, but actually I think goes beautifully. This is called Plum Rose. So I'm knitting these 2 with the Almond. I think it's going to be really, this autumn colour is really in my wheelhouse, but this really isn't. So I think this is going to be really nice, pushing the boundaries for me a bit with my colour choices. So that is my last whip. I will probably say more as I've done a bit more on that, but really, really enjoying it. Really enjoying it. Okay, sip of coffee. Sip of coffee. Feeling better. Right. I appreciate not everyone likes acquisitions. I don't have masses of acquisitions today. They are kind of small ones with gift knitting purposes. Not that that may or may not make any difference to you. And I've got a couple of books, one of which you've already seen. But I also have a segment that I wanted to talk about, as I said, kind of things that I've knit that maybe I want to alter. And I also want to give everyone a bit of a life update before doing final bits of kind of giveaway announcements and that kind of thing. So I think I'm going to start with the portion on jumpers I've knit and want to alter. And let's actually start with what I'm wearing. So I know I didn't mention this at the top of the podcast, and I don't know how well you can see this. There we go. So what I'm wearing is a modified, well, it's not, modified is the wrong word, because this pattern is more like a design your own colourwork sweater. This is a Strange Brew sweater recipe sweater. So I used all their numbers, but I didn't use any of their motifs. This yoke is just my design. Lots of it, actually, I did a bit of mosaic knitting. This is all knit in scrap yarns, so I'm not going to go through, excuse me, I'm not going to go through and say what they all are, but I will tell you that the main body of this is knit in Holst Garn and I always get this colourway wrong, which is ridiculous because it's my favourite. It's their navy colourway and it's got like black in it as well. I just love it. And this sweater was knit on 3.75mm needles. It's got quite a lot of positive ease on me. My body's there and it comes out here. I went back in and picked up the neckline, and then I went back in and picked it up again in a different yarn all over again. I held it double. I held the whole skein double to do the second neckline. I'm so glad I did. And I love the yoke of this. I love the colours. They are so me. But this yarn, if I had one complaint about Holst, and it's not really something it's not even feedback because it's just the nature of the yarn and it's one of those things you kind of have to accept, but the back of and it's not really going to show very well I bet, but the back of the sleeve, maybe if I turn this way, there you can see it, the back of the sleeve holds memory of your elbows being bent, which means they hang really oddly when you're just stood straight. And I also made this at a time when the wide sleeve, the kind of knitting your sleeve completely straight with no tapering, was really fashionable in the hand knit community. So I'm in two minds. Looking at it on the podcast, and I wore it yesterday, and I kind of loved it. And I was like, oh, why don't I wear this more often? But the main thing is that I think the sleeves are a little bit short. I'd like them longer. I'm in a longer sleeve phase where I like them kind of part way down my hand. And I think they're also a bit wide. So I might re-knit the sleeves on this, but I won't be re-knitting the full thing. I will just take it back up to kind of here-ish and then re-knit sleeves. Who loves knitting sleeves? But anyway, so that's my first jumper that I'm going to alter, but I kind of just thought I'd explain a little bit about why I'm altering it. You will see it as a kind of half-finished object later on, maybe in the new year when I make the edit, because, you know, it will represent quite a lot of knitting. And then the next item that again is going to be like a kind of alteration. This one's probably going to be less drastic. So this I knit in the same year as this jumper. This was actually the year of the pandemic, so it was 2020. And I had a lot more time to sit and watch knitting podcasts. I learnt so much, my knitting really improved. And I knit several of these yoked sweaters. So this is the next one. The pattern's not coming up very well, there we go. So this is also knit in Holst Garn. This is the colourway Nougat. And the yoke, all of this is also knit from Strange Brew Sweater Recipe, but I was playing around with how much colourwork I did in the yoke and what I used for the colourwork. So this is Petite in like a superwash worsted spun, but it's like very slippery and silky. It's almost got like the kind of look of like a cotton or a linen as opposed to a wool, but it's not, it is wool. And I don't know the colourway because I got given the scraps from someone else. But I love the colour, it's just stunning. And yeah, this was knit on 3.5mm needles, I think. Single ribbed collar. I do really like how this collar sits. I just think it's beautiful. Really happy with how this, I mean there's a bit of a dip with my colour work here, but just generally really happy with how this fits. Apart from, this was knit when I can't remember what this kind of sleeve's called, almost like a bishop sleeve, like where it kind of comes in and then drastic, like a balloon sleeve type thing. And not only are these sleeves a bit short, but also I just really don't like that look on me, if I'm honest. So again, this is going to be a sleeve reknit. However, what I think I'm going to do is actually take this back to about here and then do a little rib and make it a short sleeve, and then use the additional yarn to maybe lengthen the body a little bit, just a little bit, just to give me a tiny bit more coverage. I could then tuck it in if I want it to look cropped. But I think I'm going to turn this into a top because I think I'll wear it more. It's got that beautiful lightweight, it's like super drapey, lightweight. But at the moment I'm not really wearing it as a jumper because it's the sleeves. Again, I evidently had a bit of a sleeve issue for a while. And it kind of teaches me not to get sucked into fads too much, because you've got to know what suits you and how you like to wear things. So another edit coming on that sweater. And I'm going to have a sip of coffee before talking about the final sweater that I want to edit. Okay, so this one is going to be a bit more drastic, and actually this one makes me kind of go, ugh, because this took me hours, and this was knit at kind of quite a sentimental time in my life. So this is the Contrast Sweater by Petite Knit. Absolutely love the construction. I didn't gauge swatch for this because it was asking for the same gauge as another jumper of hers that I'd knit. So I kind of already knew, if that makes any sense. What can I say about this? So this is sentimental because I was, again, given this yarn as a Christmas present. I had really wanted to knit this sweater, and I just at the time could not afford a full sweater's worth of mohair. And so that was my Christmas present. And that was huge for me. And the yarns I've used, by the way, the main non-mohair yarn for the main body of this is Isager Highland wool in the colourway Ecru, and the mohair I used was Isager Mohair in Ecru. And then I held the same Highland wool in Ecru as the main colour, but then for the contrast I just changed my mohair, and I changed it to a Gepard garn mohair in a kind of mushroomy colourway, and I love how subtle the contrast is. I get so many compliments on this sweater whenever I wear it because of the kind of subtlety. But as you can see, these sleeves are short but massively wide, and that's because for some reason my shaping, the yoke part, the top portion part, is just so deep. It's hugely deep. I ended up knitting a belt to wrap around this to kind of pull it in a bit. Anyway, I really don't know what went wrong, because when I'm looking at the fabric is not hugely airy. Like, well, it's airy, but it's not, it doesn't look weird. It doesn't look like I've knit it at the wrong gauge. Anyway, I haven't actually gone back and looked at my gauge, but it's got to be massively off, because I knit like the second size or something. So I am going to frog this entire sweater and re-knit it, because I love the design. I love the depth of the collar that I've done. I really enjoy the fabric, this mohair and Highland wool, like it's so squishy. But I think I need to knit it either a much smaller size. I will actually gauge swatch this time. I'll probably knit a gauge swatch that I can unravel, so I won't kind of keep the swatch. But I need to re-knit this because it drowns me, and because of the kind of mohair and the kind of how much fabric there is, even when I draw it around my waist, it kind of just it doesn't make me look the way I want it to. And it's neither this kind of oversized cozy or this like kind of loosely, slightly oversized but kind of drapey. It's just not one thing or another, basically, is what I'm trying to say. So I'm going to frog the whole thing, and this will be a New Year project to re-knit this sweater, which will be... But I think it needs to be done, because there is absolutely no point me having this sat in my wardrobe and not wearing it. I don't want to gift it because the yarn's special to me, and I really wanted this sweater, so I need to find a way of having it. So yeah, might as well frog something I'm not using and use the yarn to make something new, and that's one of the joys of knitting, is that you can do that. So that's what I am going to do. So that's that. Right, how are we getting on? Okay, I have no concept of how long I've been talking at you, but I'm sure it's quite a while. So I'm going to quickly move on to acquisitions. If acquisitions is not your thing, I will put a timestamp on screen to where you want to skip to hear about giveaway winners, and also hear about some updates on what content you can expect over the coming months, and a little bit of a life update. I will put that on screen. So for those who do want to hear about acquisitions, as you heard, I've purchased 52 weeks of scarves. There are so many designs in here that I want to knit. I will just very quickly, if I can find them, a couple of them as examples, show you some of the ones that you will see cast on in the not too distant future. I'm going to try and do so without flashing instructions, but hoping you can see this gorgeousness. A shawl or a wrap that looks like a field of flowers, all in texture. There is, and I love how this is broken up into like weeks, blah, 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 so it's easier to find designs. There is this, which I absolutely love. I will be making that in several colourways. It uses up an enormous quantity of yarn, so I might make shorter ones than what the pattern calls for, because I think this calls for Beauregard DK by Plucky Knitter, but it calls for 6 skeins of the main colour, and each skein is 274 metres per 100 grams, so you're looking at like 600 grams just in the main colour. So anyway, we'll see how far I get with that. There is a pattern for a lovely collar in here if people are into collar designs at the moment. There is the one that I am obviously currently knitting, and then there is one towards the back that I really wanted to show because I just think it's so innovative. This one. So, loads that I want to make out of that book. Picked that up, as I say, in my local Waterstones. The other thing that I picked up, also from Waterstones, but a different Waterstones, yesterday actually, was this knitting stitch collection. So I have shown on the podcast a few times, I think, that I have a stitch dictionary that I bought when I was 7 from a charity shop for like 80p. That was made by the Women's Institute, and I have, ever since I've got more serious about knitting in my 20s, I have been looking for a stitch dictionary that gives me more stitches than what is available in that original one, and I have really struggled. Like, even things like there's like a Vogue knitting Bible, or like there's like these knit stitch Bibles, all of that is covered in the original one that I had. So I've been searching and searching for a stitch dictionary that gives me kind of cables and lace and knit purl textures more than what I already had, and I finally found this one. So I'm really excited to have a look through this, start doing some little swatches and seeing how I can incorporate these into either modifying other patterns or into my own designs. I'm really, really excited, and as and when I find ones that I really like, I will of course share them with you all. So that was another purchase this week, really investing in my knitting education, as you can see. And then I have got a couple of yarn purchases, but as I say, they are predominantly for gift knitting. And I should say, as a kind of bonus future knitting plan, for those of you who watch my Wonderwool Wales recap, I will try and put the video up here. I picked up a couple of skeins from Marina Skewer, who is a designer, podcaster and yarn dyer here in the UK, and actually Marina uses wool from, or her skeins come from sheep that are farmed and reared very close to where my other half and I had got our house, so it was very local to me, which I thought was beautiful. This colour's blowing out a little bit on camera, but this is a really gorgeous kind of hot pinky colour, but with a kind of softness to it. This is called Rose, and it's 50 grams, it's DK weight. This is her Mendit DK. I'm going to knit a hat for my mum who does open water swimming and needs a really warm but brightly coloured hat to go over her rubber swimming hat so that people can see her in the water. So I'm going to knit her one of these. That's probably going to be a Christmas present. Also on the Christmas present list is these two Knitting for Olives merinos in pearl grey. These are going into that flea stitch cowl that I showed you earlier, and that is also a gift knit. I'm not going to say for who in case they're watching, but really, really excited. I know everyone knows a lot about Knitting for Olive, KFO, sorry, but I'm really enjoying working with the yarn. So nice to have a project made out of that. And then my other final kind of acquisition was a skein of Gepard Garn Cash Sock. So this is a strong sock yarn with cashmere. 2 hanks equals 3 pairs of socks, so it's 100 grams is 416 meters, so I can definitely get a good pair of socks out of these. So these are again going to be a Christmas gift knit. It's in a colour that I would not normally go for but really love. I'm trying to remember what they called this colourway online. It was called like Nougat or something, or yeah, I can't remember, but I love it. It's very like mushroomy is what it reminds me of. So those are all my acquisitions for this week. Right, trying to get all my thoughts straight so I don't come out in a big block, like, you know, ramble. but coffee. Okay, so let's do plans for the next couple of months in terms of content, just so you can know what to expect. So for long-term viewers, you will know that I'm getting married very soon. The relevance of this to podcast episodes is that I should be able to get a episode out in 2 weeks' time. That will be fine. That will be the weekend before I'm getting married. And then the following episode that will be due 2 weeks after that, I am most likely going to have to skip because I will be on my honeymoon. So you'll have one more episode and then there will be a pause, and then I will be coming back to you probably from the 10th of December. I think that sounds about right. So there's going to be a little pause. I will see if I have enough content. I will potentially try and make a little video to schedule to be released whilst I'm on honeymoon, if I've got something that I think is interesting to everyone to share. Otherwise you will be missing me for a week. However, I will make up for that gap because I am going to do, I guess you could call it half vlogmas. It won't be full vlogmas because it won't be starting from the 1st of December because I will be on honeymoon, and that's going to be a very special time that it's going to be too personal to record, and I don't know how much knitting I'll be doing. Hopefully some, but not masses. I might have little bits of footage from the honeymoon of, on the plane and things like that, but won't be masses. So I think I'll be doing vlogmas probably starting from approximately the 8th or 9th of December, and I will keep that going through until Christmas Eve. So my last video will be published on Christmas Eve, which will be lovely. I'm so excited to do it. I've got so much planned that I want to share with you all. So there's a little bit of logistics to figure out where we're going to be staying, again, because of our current housing situation. More on that in a moment, but I don't want to give too many specifics up front because I've kind of got things planned that are kind of geography agnostic, but let's just see. So anyway, vlogmas is on this year, a partial vlogmas, so that's very exciting. But I just wanted to kind of clarify what's happening over the next couple of months. Normal podcasting will resume after my wedding on the 10th of December. I think that's the Sunday. But you guys can, I'll either put it on screen, or I hope everyone can kind of work that out. So that leads to a very quick life update. As mentioned, wedding is now 3 weeks away, which is just bonkers. We've been engaged for 3 years, so just, madness. And we are getting married like 4 or 5 days after our 8-year anniversary, so a very special time of year for us. And we still haven't sold our property that's been on the market, so we're just doing a bit of a rejig of what's going on with that, trying to figure out a longer term plan about where we're going to be based, because we're currently staying with family who've been incredibly generous to have us to stay for such a long time without a kind of definite move out date. So we're looking at what we're going to do kind of from the new year, as in we're planning now, but it will come into effect from the new year. So we're just figuring all that out, but I will let you guys know once I know more. But I have some other big life news which definitely does affect you all, which I think is hopefully very exciting, which is that after a lot of deliberation and a lot of back and forth and uncertainty and I have quit my corporate job. I need a bit of a break. I have been working some form of job during school holidays, university holidays, working whilst at university. I've been working non-stop pretty much since I was 14, and I just need a bit of a break. I didn't take a gap year. I haven't taken more than kind of a 10-day break in a really long time. So I have not got another job lined up. I am gonna take some time just to recharge between now and the end of December, and then figure out a bit more what I want to do in the new year. But something I would like to do is make sure I have more time for knitting, more time to make videos like this. I'm really enjoying it. More time for designing, and kind of I feel at the moment I'm kind of not. I feel like I've got one foot in, one foot out a little bit with this. I'm kind of wanting to make the time, but don't feel like I'm doing it all justice. So really excited to be able to kind of dedicate and kind of do things properly in the way that I really want to do them. And I think Vlogmas is going to be a really good kickoff for that. Depending what we are doing with the house and our housing situation, it may be that I also start making some vlogs about renovations and DIY, very different to knitting. It may be that I end up taking on a different part-time job. I really don't know. So sorry that it's kind of, I'm kind of giving you a very like ambiguous, I don't know, but I did really want to share the news with you all because you've all been so supportive and so clear in your messaging to me that I need to do what's right for me, and you've been so encouraging to take time when you need it, to not apologise for what I need or want or the way that I present myself, you know, and that encouragement is really invaluable. And I think how welcoming the knitting community has been to me coming online. I just feel there's so much more I could do to invest in this. So that's my really exciting news, or at least it's really exciting for me. And as part of that, I will definitely be carving out time to do a little bit of a tour of the UK, to do interviews and shop tours of different yarn shops, different yarn producers around the UK and maybe beyond. So there's going to be some vicarious knitty travelling that you can do via this channel if it's of interest in 2024. So I'm very excited to bring that to you. But obviously, in quitting my job, I'm kind of going to have to do a little bit of, you know, side jobs, part-time jobs to earn the money to then do the trip, to then bring it all to you. So, you know, there's so many different causes going on around the world right now. I really would appreciate if all of you could continue to support the issues happening out in Gaza, you know, support people who are suffering from that situation any way you can. So I would not, you know, please, if you're thinking of generating or donating to my Ko-fi account, please instead divert that to a charity helping other people. But if you can, any views of this podcast will really help me out in generating a little bit of money through adverts to help me. So if that's a kind of free way of contributing to this channel to support me, to help me with those trips, that's great. But as I said, please divert any donations that you would have made to much better causes of people in much more need right now. I hope I worded that right. I hope that came out the way I meant it. So that's my life news. That's my life update. A really big one. Very, very excited. So that leaves me with podcast admin, so to speak, and the really exciting part, which is giving back to all of you for all of your support, and that is in the form of a giveaway. Now, I promised two different branches to the 1,000 subscriber giveaway. One method of entering was to subscribe to this channel and then to promote it to other people that you think would enjoy it, whether that was via email, WhatsApp, Instagram, comments below, whatever it is, sharing it with someone else. So that is one pool of winners that I will draw from, and there will be 2 prizes in that category. I'll come to the prizes in a moment. In the other category was to subscribe here and to also follow me over on Instagram. And that's going to be a second category where there's going to be at least 1 winner. In terms of what the prizes look like, I promised at least a couple of skeins to a winner from the first category, and they'd get a kind of few little bits and bobs coming with that. And then I promised a skein with maybe a mini for the second prize in that category. For the Instagram and YouTube subscriber category, it's going to be the equivalent of a sock set, a bit like the second prize in the first category. Very confusing, I know. Basically, there's going to be 2 sock sets handed out and 1 double skein plus a few little extra bits. What those skeins look like, I have not purchased anything yet because I wanted to draw the winners, and then I'd like to get in touch with the winners to find out what their preference is around colours, yarn bases, maybe they can't knit with wool, maybe they want cotton, maybe you're a crocheter, maybe you're not, and instead of a knitter, and I need to take that into account. Maybe you particularly there's a type of yarn that you've really wanted to try. I can't promise, it will depend on price point, but we'll try my best. Maybe it's that you really want to try a yarn that I really love, or you want something that's very much a UK based yarn company. Whatever your preference might be, I want to hear about them so that I'm making this package the right thing for you. So very excited to get in touch. Now, I'm recording this video quite early in the morning, and in full disclosure, I have not yet had a moment to literally draw the winners. So I'm going to put the winners up on the screen and down below in the description box now. So if you are any of these 3 individuals, please contact me via Instagram message directly, and we can chat about what your preferences are. I can get your details to make sure I can send this package to you, and I will send it out before I go on honeymoon. So please do get in touch as soon as you can so that I can get this package out to you. If it gets too close to my honeymoon, then I will unfortunately not be able to send it until I am back from honeymoon, and it might get caught up in Christmas mail. So please do reach out to me as soon as you can if you're one of these 3 winners. And thank you again, everybody, for your support. We will continue to run various giveaways as we progress through the winter. I will absolutely be doing giveaways of yarn of patterns closer to Christmas. So anyway, I think that's enough waffling from me today. Thank you for being on this rollercoaster journey with me. Thank you for all the support of this channel and of me as an individual, and for maybe inadvertently helping me make quite a big life decision recently. And I really, really look forward to coming to you again in 2 weeks' time, hopefully with lots of these works in progress kind of clearing the decks, hopefully with some of my Christmas gift knitting done, and with a few more plans for vlogmas that people can get a little bit excited about. I know it feels very weird to be discussing Christmas at the beginning of November, but hey, that's just the way it goes. So I will leave you there. Have a lovely rest of weekend, rest of week, happy knitting, stay safe, and I will see you very soon.